AI changes fast. And it changes so fast, I opened my laptop this morning and took the perfect presentation and fully remade it. Actually, I'm a person who suffers a lot from imposter syndrome. Who of you knows that? Yeah. Who of you had it? Right. So actually standing here with everybody knowing what ChatGPT is and using AI, I feel a lot like an imposter today. So why I have this talk is because I want to help people, right? I want to help designers, I want to help people that struggle sometimes, and I want to make them struggle less. So actually, I had a pretty lucky last 3 to 4 years where everything worked out pretty nicely, while at the beginning of my 20s, it didn't work out actually. I want to tell you a little story about myself. So I graduated high school, made a pretty good grade, studied business, I quit. Then I applied for a scholarship in a test where I found out that I have a pretty high verbal intelligence and am pretty good at writing, right? Then my second computer science, so I had a fable for computers, I studied computer science, also quit. Then I studied economics, always quit. So I had 3 dropouts. In my track record, everything looked pretty badly. Then I got a $4,000 euro scholarship for a private university in Germany that seemed to be a bit different. And after 1 semester, guess what? I quit again. So things were going sideways a lot in my 20s. And I think, what is my purpose? What is wrong with me? I'm a total misfit. I don't fit in this society. So then Hamburg, and that's why it's cool to be here, kind of was a turning point for me, because I was learning copywriting at a Texterschmiede in Hamburg. I worked at agencies here. It was kind of boring. It wasn't so user-focused. I was a lot in delivery. I was an intern. I was paid badly. I wanted to go von Jung von Matt, and I heard what they pay is, so I didn't do it. To be honest, it was awful, really. And also this lifestyle stuff, it wasn't just for me. So I went back to Munich and was freelancing a bit here and there, writing, also nightlife. I had a pretty intense nightlife phase in that time. Then I was learning UX design. And then I could take the copywriting skills I learned in advertising, combine them with the UX design, and become a UX writer. And it just made sense, because like 4 years ago, like there weren't many UX writers, and there aren't many right now. So UX writing is still a pretty in-demand skill, right? Then I was at an agency, IT consultancy, Adesso. They hired me as a UX designer. I did some cool public projects there, which worked out pretty well. And then Porsche was looking for a UX writer. And so I applied kind of there by just, running into a Porsche Zentrum and asking all the people there what they would change in the writing, for example. And then we were filming it and sending it to the guys, to Marcel and Daniel, and they really loved it. So they said, you have to come in our team. So I joined the design ops team as actually, you won't believe it, in the whole Porsche digital organization, the only writer. And I was like, and they were like, okay guys, what are my jobs? What do I have to do? And they were like, we don't know. We have money and just, try it out. And for me, if you see my CV, right, if you see my coming of age, it was actually perfect. To be honest, if I had ChatGPT in university, I would have done everything with it, everything. So that's from University of Göttingen. They now have this annex, they put it at the papers, because now they have a very interesting discussion going on how to actually implement it. Everything of this is now kind of possible. So it took only 7 months until my predictions already came true, which is not cool, because it's super fast, right? And time is moving so fast in AI, we have to catch up somehow. So what I use it for, in this case, I wanted to know, hey, explain it so a 5-year-old would understand, right? That is something I use it for. I've wrote a lot, and I took AI for a lot of this. This was a client for Hamburger Verkehrsanlagen. We rewrote the whole tonality, so every Hamburg citizen could easily understand it. We built the new Porsche car configurator. This is a blog article that was 99% written by AI, but let's skip this. My job I had to do was to scale writing, because we had 100 UX designers and no writers. I was the only writer. So I somehow had to figure something out. So I could either educate designers, right, by myself, with doing academies and then having 10 people every week and telling them how to write. But then we still have a governance problem, because we don't know how well they will be educated. I could also hire more writers, but Marcel was more like, it's not sustainable to hire more people, because that will be linear growth, right? So I was looking around, and basically that's how I stumbled across AI. AI at that time was a tool called Jasper, which was kind of a tool that basically accessed the API from GPT version 3 now with the hype, everybody builds AI tools, but this was kind of the first AI tool they built. I just tried it out and it worked out pretty well. Like we fed it, we gave it the information, and then I told everyone about it and they started using it. And we used it for stuff like blog posts, product descriptions. It was by accident that I stumbled across AI, but actually it worked pretty well for me and also for the organization that hired me. Let's talk about why ChatGPT now, everybody knows it, everybody has used it, and if you haven't used it, you should. And why is this such a hype? Because Jasper, the tool I used for Porsche, was still a tool. It had certain input fields and it gave you a certain output, right? You had to use it like a tool. But ChatGPT actually is a wet UX writer's dream. Why? Because it has conversational writing, right? You ask it a question and it gives you an answer like a human. You don't say do this, do this, do this. Although people now with prompt engineering, they want you exactly to handle it like this. It's not the idea, the intention of it, right? The intention is that human interact with it. ChatGPT is a hype because it's not like a tool anymore. Like a hammer is a tool, and you can't say to a hammer, hey hammer, how do I put a nail in the wall with you? But with ChatGPT, you can. I now mainly work as a UX researcher because I wanted to know more about the users I work with and be more hands-on in that. So actually, I asked ChatGPT a lot of questions about UX research to get a little overview on, what would be fitting way of doing research in that area now. Everybody can use it, everybody can write, but that's also the bad thing, that everybody can basically use it and there will be a lot of trash produced. That's not a problem at all because the writing part is actually just 1%. And selling the ideas to the clients, to the internal stakeholders, to the business owners, that's where the magic happens. And that's why I say pitching is so important and selling is such an important skill, right? Now the bad news. I called it delivery. Delivery will die. I'm 100% sure. And what is delivery? Delivery means when a client or your boss says, make this pixel there, or write this LinkedIn post, or write this brochure, or whatever, but you are just a person doing it technically. And this kind of work, just doing what others tell you, will have a very hard time. This was the hierarchy like I learned. You start as an intern, and I hated being an intern, right? Now I love it, actually. But I'm a well-paid intern, though. And that were kind of the hierarchy, right? This was the status quo. And my prediction of what I see happening, I see graphic designers being fired because they aren't challenging enough. They aren't challenging the status quo. So this is the new one I see. And obviously, it leaves a lot of, it hasn't so much space in the middle, right? That's a big problem because you might see yourself somewhere there and you want it to become better at what you do. And I'm totally honest, like building UI screens in Figma is fun. It's a lot of fun, but actually only because it's fun doesn't mean you will do it forever. So instead of waiting for you to be changed, you have to become the change, right? Not by being forced, but by having the opportunity. Here an example from my actual life. So I have a friend, he's in a high position at a company. And he said like, we need a podcast. And that's a bit bad example because you make your own podcast. But take it as a challenge because he needed a podcast because corporate podcast is cool and he makes ad marketing by that. And he said, Flo, I need a pitch for the podcast. You need to pitch the CMO the podcast. And I was like, hey, I don't, do we need another corporate podcast? We have so many. Why do we need it? Take your energy, put it somewhere else. And what is the idea of it? What makes it special? Why should I listen to it? I don't know, make a podcast pitch. So I asked, obviously, ChatGPT for this nasty kind of delivery work to make me a CMO pitch for this podcast. I gave it a lot of context, the AI, and it made me, and then I built a PowerPoint. It took me half an hour. I sent it to him. He got the podcast. And that's okay. That's okay. But actually, I kind of asked myself, why did I do it? Like you have seen the memes, like, for example, you need to write a business email to a business partner, and you can put it in GPT, write a business email about I'm not coming to work tomorrow. So then it writes a 200 words business email, and then the recipient gets the email and puts this email into ChatGPT and says, summarize this email. And in the end, there's only a few strings, and the AI is actually communicating with the AI. So I say, then write just 2 words, not coming tomorrow. Be unique, be original, right? Just say what you want to say. And I really say, watch your output and make like your output count, right? And not the process, because the process is not worth so much anymore, right? So whenever I, for example, had a writing project, like writing a whole website, would I have budget of 100 hours? When I was a consultant, I had budgets. And those with AI become 5 hours. It's possible. You can make your writing way faster. And now the question is not if that happens, but basically how you cope with it. This is a scene from Charlie, Willy Wonka, Charlie and Chocolate. I don't know, it's Charlie and the Schokoladenfabrik, right? And that's Charlie's father, and he is like working in a toothpaste factory, screwing the caps on the toothpaste. So one day, and he doesn't really like his job. The process is pretty boring, right? And one day his boss tells him, "You're fired because we have a robot doing it for you." And he's like devastated because he lost his job. It's awful, right? But then, happy end, the boss calls him because the robot is not working and he's now maintaining the robot. And this, in my opinion, is the perfect allegory for how it will happen, like in the creative jobs, right? We won't do like all the Figma work ourselves, or like copying websites, but we will maintain and kind of supervise how we do it. And this is basically just a change in name, right? It's basically then we are still writers, but we're prompt engineers. And I have a question to all of you: which type of input do you put in generative AI? What? Images? For example, images, yes, but most of them work with text. And as a writer, you obviously know how to text, right? So that gives you a competitive advantage above anyone else. So I mean, go for it. Go be the AI pro. So let's quickly go to, okay, this was the art part, and I wanted to have some now table-like comparison in the end. It's untypical for me, but let's do it. We have a matrix, and say we have a person that is untechnical and unoriginal. Then we have technical and unoriginal. We have untechnical and original, that's me. And we have technical and original, right? So now this is kind of how I would sort the types of creators, right? Creative jobs. This is the writer that is untechnical and unoriginal, and he does everything the boss or client says. He's pretty uninspired, and he doesn't really like what he does. This is Wolfgang Beltracchi. He is a German painter that actually faked pictures of masters, but never admitted it and made a lot of money by it. He's technical expert, but he has no own ideas. He copies ideas from others, but does it in a very good way, right? This is a picture I took from TikTok, because TikTok is going mad about Adobe and the generative AI implemented in Adobe, right? And that is kind of me, because when I worked in advertising, I had so many ideas. Like the copywriters always have the ideas, and then they call the art directors, "Hey, I have this idea, can you please do it?" And it's amazing, because now, if they have a smart idea of an advertisement, for example, they can do it themselves, which is freaking amazing. I want to go back to advertising. This is a famous video of Harry Potter combined with Balenciaga, in a style of Balenciaga. And basically Balenciaga is technically, of course, amazing, but that's why they have set such an iconic look and feel, and also original because they have the ideas. And what AI now does, it infuses famous brands even more, right? So the brands that already have their own style become a new one. This is some math to prove I'm smart. So it's not only about content, obviously content, but it's about relevant content, right? It has to have relevance. So you have to think, am I writing just the blog to get traffic, or do I have something to say? And my most needed skill for the future, you have to observe, think, measure, right? Soft skills, basically. Give 0 fucks. So yeah, just 0 fucks and don't do bullshit, right? And yeah, that's it.